2 more opportunities coming up, making sure that if I can go coach speak on you, take one game at a time. North Al's playing well. They've got a confidence. Seems like the shackles are off because they are eligible for the NCAA tournament and postseason play. And always had a lot of respect for Tony. I think this version of the Lions are his best team since he's been there, and we anticipate a really tough battle.
I wanted to ask you specifically about Colin Porter, and you've spoken about how he just seems older than his age as a freshman. Does that come from one playing in Kentucky, a state that Colorado alludes to quite frequently as being, you're born with basketball in your hands, basically, and how quickly he's been able to pick up everything?
The state of Kentucky, Indiana, that Midwest basketball is really well coached, and Colin definitely benefited from being raised there and coached by some terrific coaches. But I think what he's got are some of the intangibles or immeasurables that, maybe don't pass the eye test when you're going out and evaluating in the AAU stuff. What I loved about Colin, and I've seen it even enhanced since he's been here, is he's got a toughness and a basketball IQ that makes everyone else around him better. I always measure point guards based on 2 things. Number one, do they make everyone else on the floor better, and what kind of impact do they have on winning? And I tell you, Colin Porter would grade out very high in both of those categories. And we had an excitement when we started recruiting him, and man, we're really blessed that he's wearing one of our uniforms.
How quickly did you notice that once you started practicing with this group?
It didn't take him long. Colin's very conscientious. He doesn't want to step on toes. He's got, it's a superpower of his that he has this, I want everybody to feel included, and I want them to feel good about how they're experiencing him. So I think there was a little bit of, I heard the UVA broadcast last night, and they reference Isaac McNeely, the guy, I can't remember who was doing the game. Maybe was it Dave Pash? I can't remember. But he said, take the parking brake off and let Isaac shoot anytime he wants. Well, Colin, you just hand him the keys, and man, okay, get us there. And I think he's got a long, prosperous career ahead of him.
You've done that with freshmen, Lavelle, Georgie. Is that something like once you notice it in them that you're like, all right, you got the keys to the ball?
Well, I think every coach wants his point guard to be a reflection of the foundation or the pillars that they hope the program operates from. And when guys can be trusted like that, absolutely. Georgie and Lavelle got the chance to play early because we were still trying to get competitive. But for Colin to do it on this team and this version of our program, I think it speaks very highly to the kind of person and player he is.
Not to compare Colin to one of the greats at Liberty or one of the best point guards, but a guy that started for 4 years and won a lot of championships. But George, you mentioned him. He started as a true freshman. I think the second game of his career. And one thing I remember about Georgie in his freshman year, about midway through, you could tell he just had that poise, that leadership. Nothing fazed him. Do you sense Colin has a similar type demeanor?
Yeah, great observation. I think they're very similar in their portrayal of how the game is affecting them. You don't know if they're having a great game or they're not playing as well. And again, I think there's a lot that goes into that, how they've been coached, how many games they've played that have been significant. I think who they are as people, their foundation of their faith. And if you're compared to Georgie Pacheco-Ortiz, you're doing something right, because that dude was special for us. He was a catalyst in taking this program to new heights. And I think Colin has the ability to continue that and maybe even further.
When you're recruiting, obviously personality, I'm sure, is part of every player's recruit. Is it more emphasized with the point guard position because of what you've seen being successful, in particular guys that have the right demeanor, which is not necessarily statistically quantifiable? With all due respect to Dane, who has every stat number.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. And I think when you played the position, there probably is an inherent expectation that they know what the template is for your team or your program's success as well as you do. And I think their coachability, their ownership in maybe running and directing it the way you would want it ran. I think that's part of the evaluation process, and it's not done all by what you see. Some of it's in conversation and watching practice and hearing them articulate over the phone or in person what they saw or how they would appropriate a given scenario in a game. So I think there's a lot of elements that are evaluated or compiled when you're trying to find that best fit for your program.
When you look at what Colin has been able to do with the point guard position, being able to play Darius off ball, for the first 3 years he was here with Georgie and Chris Parker, that freedom off the ball led to a lot of, he was able to create a lot, especially create separation. Have you seen that he's been able within your offense, still be able to play free and have that freedom, but without having the point guard responsibility?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned earlier, a great point guard makes everybody else on the floor better. Steve Nash is, in my mind, or Steph Curry are two of the greatest examples that have touched the ball. The Suns in that genre where Steve was the two-time MVP, everybody's dollars went up. Joe Johnson, Sean Marion, Amari Stoudemire, Barbosa, Rajah Bell. These aren't common household names unless you're a really big NBA fan. But, man, because of the way Steve Nash would orchestrate the offense with the ball and the decisions, I think Colin has the ability to enhance others' games, and Darius is Darius. Darius has the same ability, and I love playing with two guys that can make decisions. And when you throw Kyle Rode and Zach Cleveland there, man, we have some really good decision makers. I think that's why we've probably had the best assist ratio that we've had in a while here.
Blake Preston has gotten to start the last 3 games. Is it something he's provided in practice that led you to do that, or you just think the team's been getting off to a good start?
Yeah, John, that's a great question. Like I get asked a lot about starting, and it's important to the players I know, probably the families, probably the fans. It's not to me. It really isn't. I'm looking at the matchup. How do we get off to the best start? Maybe who's earned it. I wanted to start as a player, so I get the meaning of it. But we really, and I'm not joking, we have 8 guys that could start. Like Isaiah Warfield could be a starter. Like he's done enough to do that. Shiloh Robinson has started, could start again. Blake Preston is starting. And Brody Peebles is having a really, really good sophomore campaign. So I probably don't pay as much attention to it, but Blake has been trending upward for about 3.5 weeks. He's impacted the game with his physicality, his rebounding, and decision making. So, and he's been efficient offensively. So I think it's just I'm trying to find what's the best combination of guys that are playing in the moment and rolling with them.
If that's the case, do you also look at guys that maybe play substantial minutes, but their strength is providing a spark off the bench, and
Yeah, no
therefore you're willing to? I guess the Spurs used to do this back in the day with Monty Ginobili, where he may have been like the 3rd best player or 4th best player on the team, but they put him off the bench because they knew he could provide that spark.
No doubt, and I've seen it on TV and at the highest level. I was with Coach Bennett, and we'd have guys come off the bench that would just infuse some confidence, some toughness, some energy. Justin Anderson came off the bench for us for a while, and we've had that here with different guys. Keenan Gums was terrific that way. So what Brody is bringing us off the bench is, I showed him a graphic today. What's his name? Jason Villanova guard, Hart. Gosh, come on. You know what I'm talking about? Josh Hart. Josh Hart's dad had a tweet that Jay Wright sent out, and he said, he encouraged his son to continue to work, work for what you want, be a great teammate, and have an impact on the game. His sophomore year, when he told his dad he's not starting. Well, that's the two-time player of the year in the Big East, and he's sixth man of the year and having a great NBA career. I just think the emphasis that sometimes the outside puts on the shine of starting, yeah, I think that gets weighted a little too heavily. But a long-winded answer, I love our group and the balance that they have. And whether you're starting or you're bringing something off the bench for us, I'm grateful for your full investment to our team and its process.
When you mentioned that, all those factors, multiple guys taking on different roles. Sometimes you start, sometimes you come off the bench. Different guys scoring or passing or rebounding or doing selfless things. How much does that serve as an asset, especially, and I'm not asking you to get into Darius's specifics in terms of his health, but the idea of load management, knowing that you can put guys in different roles and that they can absorb different responsibilities so that the pressure does not fully fall on Darius throughout the entire conference schedule, as much of a grind as that can be?
Yeah, Darius practiced. We fully anticipate him playing, if that was the question. Or if I can expound. Yeah, and I think you hear coaches next man up, right? Like I think that's why they practice. They're working for what they want. And you never know when your number's gonna be called. So like I don't know how many games it's been since Jonathan Jackson played a significant minute where the game was on the line, but I put him in the game because I think he can make open shots. He can make contested shots. So Darius's minute management is something that I'm cognizant of, but we're a little deeper than we were last year. So I think that would have happened regardless of his usage, because I think that's how you develop a program and have some sustainability amongst your ranks, guys playing significant minutes and growing in their confidence. All right.
Do we have any virtually?
I do.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Go ahead.
Just a quick question, Coach. At this point of the season, you're going up against North Alabama. Coming off of a loss, but how important is it for you to kind of get back on the horse, especially at this point of the season? Not that you haven't been in this position before, but how important is it for you to kind of set the tone for the remainder of the year in this game?
This is my, I think, 35th year. I'm not sure. I'm old. So I think, Ryan, for me, like I know the reality of our circumstance. We're in a one-bid league, period. And I want to win every single game. Any coach that does this for a career has that same desire. But I walked out of the locker room in Richmond frustrated that we didn't get the desired result. But, man, that group that we get to coach is tremendous. They're unbelievable young men. And the way they responded to different adversity during the game and the post-game conversations, like, we didn't lose. Now, I won't go into the ins and outs of that, but, like, these are great young men. I'm a fan of Navy's coach, Ken, the ex-coach, because I know I can't pronounce his last name. Niumatalolo. That's pretty impressive, Ed. Because he always talks about the full person or whole person development of the cadets. Could you call Navy midshipmen cadets? I don't know. Midshipmen. And, I think the atmosphere that God's allowed us to create here, man, we're developing some unbelievable people. So getting back on the horse, I don't know if I don't have to really set a tone for our group because I trust them. I think they really want to win. I think it's an unrealistic expectation to win every game. But I think they'll respond with a with a right response that will warrant an opportunity to have a chance to win the next game and every game from here on out. It is a joy to coach them. So I know we've had games where we haven't been our best, i.e. Oral Roberts, when we turned it over 20 times. There's been a number of factions of games where I've been frustrated. But, man, I trust this group, and I trust that we'll respond to a scoreboard defeat well, because I think we've already done that in the minutes or the moments right after the game. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, and I have another question after that, if you don't mind. I know you talked about there's a lot of senior leaders on this team, but there's some guys that you also have, some graduate managers that have gone through the program. How important of a role do they play in shaping this team as well? When you look at Maya, when you look at
Yeah, the guys, the OGs, Maya Baxter Bell, Elijah Covey, they embellish how hard it was in the early years. Just trust me. So if you guys interview them, like, don't believe some of the stories about the long film sessions and all that. That's total embellishment. And Mayo still says I cost him a pro career because I didn't let him shoot threes when he never practiced them. So I just don't believe all that. No, but I think the insight that they have and the way they're able to communicate to our guys, and they're very shortly removed from their playing days. I think it adds so much value. Even Zach Farquhar and Luke McKay, like, our guys trust those dudes. Those dudes have an ownership and appreciation for Liberty and the opportunity that it granted them. I think it's a really hard deposit to measure, and it may not seem significant, but man, we have withdrawn already greatly from their input and their knowledge and communication with our guys. Great question, Ryan. Emily, do you have any?
I do, and for the record, I do expect you guys to win every single conference game and the championship every season, but those high expectations come from a phenomenal coaching staff, the players that it brings in, and just overall, just an outstanding program. That being said, with a guy like Colin Porter, where not a lot of schools looked at Darius McGee because of his height and size, so he was overlooked, but look what he's doing in the college game now. What qualities does Porter have that made you so confident that he would not only be able to play at this level, but be successful?
Well, thank you for your confidence in us winning every game, Emily. That means a lot. I hope we don't disappoint you too badly. I saw.
Not as much as I disappoint you with my halftime interview question.
No. Those are such great questions. I'll say that I saw last night. I don't know if you guys saw the Virginia game, but Darius was on the what's the all Davy Maxwell team? What was that, Bill? The under 6 foot team, and it was kind of neat to see Darius McGee, Liberty, with all those other names. I can't remember who was on it, but there were some good names, and and I get asked often about Darius because of what he's done on the court, but when we were recruiting Darius, we never even talked about him being whatever height he is. We talked about the impact that he had on the game. Same is true with Colin. I don't worry about 2 inches. I just don't. My old Baxter Bell, how tall is he? 6'4"? He was one of the best post players that have ever played for us. So I wish I could take credit for being able to project him in spite of whatever height he didn't have. But I didn't notice it. I noticed, man, every time he plays, I enjoy watching him, and his team has a chance to win because of him. So again, it wasn't real scientific. It was just a gut feel, and it's been that way for me for a few years of my career, and I'm thankful for it. I'm not always right, but I thought he'd have a chance to be pretty good for us, and so far that's come to fruition.